Right guys, okay, so this is what we're making in this tutorial. It's a screw, it's a ball that goes down this screw-like thing, and we look from the camera, and we're going to actually work with more than one camera in this, yeah? So it looks nice and cool, so let's go ahead and get started. So new, I'm not going to save that. A, X, okay, alright, let's delete everything, yeah? Let's have a plane. Let's grab it, let's scale it up, yeah? Let's give that a material. So down here, material, a new material. Any sort of colour you want. I don't know the difference between these. I don't know. This is always on random walk, and it's always. I've seen these, but I don't know what they do. Yeah. So I'm just going to play with this, see what that does. Okay. Turn the metallic up, turn the roughness down. It doesn't look very good at the moment because there's no light source, but we'll fix that in a minute. Yeah. In fact, let's fix that now. Let's add a HDRI. Okay, so here in World Properties, let's have an environment texture. Open into my assets, HDRIs, and I don't know. Yeah, that's something like that is fine. Oh, now we can see that material is really quite nice. Yeah, it's a nice kind of reflective material. So it was Christiansen Burley. It was some kind of purple. I cranked the metallic up and I turned the roughness down. Ah, wow, if we turn the roughness all the way down, it gets really reflective. Oh, super. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, cool. Okay. Right, anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. So we need to add a curve, and the curve is a circle. I'm going to press N, and we want to rotate this 90 degrees on the x-axis, yeah? We want to scale this down. 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. Yeah, so it's much smaller. Let's grab it, let's move it along the x-axis, and let's grab it, and let's move it along the z-axis, yeah? Now, this distance is kind of important because our screw is going to be twice this distance. Yeah. Okay, but that looks fine. We can always change it later. Now, Shift D to duplicate along the x-axis, and this is going to be the width of our screw. Something like that. When we've got two of them, use the Shift button to select both of them, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to join those. Okay, so they are now one object, yeah? If I grab them, they're one object. Now, we've got this center of gravity here, and we don't want that. We want to create our screw around this world center. So we need to change this. So we go Object, Set Origin, Origin to 3D cursor, the dot has gone and the dot is now there. Now with our Bezier circle selected, we can go to modifiers, add modifier, and we are going to add a screw modifier. As soon as that happens, we get something that looks like this. We want to change the axis to the y-axis, but now we get something that looks like this. Yeah. Now we can change the screw. Let's try that to about 10 meters. A number of iterations. Okay. Now it doesn't look very good. Okay. Alright, so I don't know why, but these this wasn't 10.5, yeah? So if we just make that 10.5, then we get the sort of screw that we are looking for, yeah? Now, it looks it's a bit jagged, and we want it smoother. Okay, so the way to do that is this steps is 16. If we take it down, it gets even more jagged. Now, that might be useful in certain instances, yeah, but it's not very useful here. We want it nice and smooth, so I'm going to have a number around 100 steps. Okay, good. We're making good progress. Let's have a few more iterations. Yeah, there we go, that's enough. I'm going to have 6, you can have as many as you want, yeah? Just don't go crazy. Let's have a material while we're here. I think black looks really nice for this. Black and metallic with not much roughness. Looks really cool, yeah? Especially on this surface. Looks nice. Good, yeah, you see the reflection. Super. Looking really good already. Let's add a ball. Okay, so this is going to be a UV sphere. Grab it and move it up along the Z axis. And let's give this a material while we're here. Okay, so new. At this point, if you want to use a color, you can. If you want to use an image texture, you can. Yeah. I'm just going to use. Now, what was it? It was this Christiansen Burley. I'm going to play around with this a little bit. And it was metallic, and it wasn't rough. Yeah, what does that look like? Also looks quite nice. I'm going to right-click Shade Smooth. Not okay. Looks good. Happy with that. Nicer than some of my materials. Okay, let's have a look from overhead. Okay, so we can see that we need to move it. So grab it, move it on the... Wait. Grab it, move it on the y-axis, and move it along. There we go. Okay, so we actually need it around here, yeah? So let's do that again. So let's grab that, move that on the let's grab that, move it on the y-axis, and then let's grab it, move it on the x-axis. Was it there, was it? Yes, okay, fine. Good. Now, if we press play, nothing happens because we haven't programmed any physics. So let's do that. Let's select the plane. I'm going to make this a bit bigger. And let's go to our physics properties, which is this one. Rigid body. This is going to be passive. And we need to do the same here. Yeah? Now there's a problem here. Rigid body. Type fixed. What is this? So this doesn't look the same, yes? And that's because this is actually a Bezier circle. It's not a mesh. If we have a look in edit mode, if we have a look in edit mode, we've only got these 2 points, the original circles that we started with. Right, okay, so we need to turn this into a different type of object, one where we can put physics onto it. So select your Bezier circle, object, convert to mesh, yeah? And we see that this symbol has now changed, and we've got our familiar menu here. If we go into edit mode, we've got a lot of stuff that we can now do things with. Okay, so rigid body, passive, and okay, let's leave it as convex hull. That's not right, but let's leave it there for now. Our ball, rigid body, active, and this is a sphere. All right, so we press play. Nothing happens. Why does nothing happen? I don't know. Let's see. Let's go to scene properties. Rigid body world cache. Let's bake this. Press play. Okay, now something happens. All right. Wasn't expecting that, but we can fix it. Grab it. Move it slightly. Now that's odd. Yeah, I moved it, but then I press play, and it goes back to its old position. Yeah, it's there. Now I press play, it goes back to its old position. Okay, and that's because this bake is now old. Yeah, so we need to rebake. If I delete the bake and do it again, the problem still doesn't go away. Now, I think that this is a bug. What we need to do is we need to change the speed, delete the bake and bake, and then the computer takes a closer look at the render. Right, okay, so what happened there? Okay, so it fell onto the tracks, but then it immediately fell off. Okay, so I think the ball's a bit too big. So let's scale it, and let's scale it down. Okay, it's not quite falling between the tracks. So let's fix that. Just grab it, just... Okay, and there's a bit of trial and error here. Okay, now the problem is that when we set up the physics, we set it up as a convex hull, and this is not right. It needs to be a mesh. And if we change it to mesh, do we need to rebake it? Let me change the speed and rebake. Hopefully, now we see something a bit better. Good. Right, we're out of frames, so let's change the number of frames. I'm going to change this to 1,000. But we can see that we've only got a bake for the first 250. And over here, we need to delete our bake. We now have 1,000 frames, so our end frame is 1,000. Let's bake it, and now we can see our bake for the whole 1,000 frames. Now if we press play, okay, a bit of a wobble. As it goes down, it should get faster. Okay, it's a bit boring, it's a bit slow. So, I'm going to speed it up. 5 times, delete the bake, bake again. Okay, zoom, zoom, zoom. Okay, good. Right, good. What you might find happens, and what happened to me last time, was that as the ball got faster and faster, it flew off. So even though that's not happened, let's fix that. So we need to go into edit mode. With your vertex selected, you can click on any vertex in the outside screw. Okay, so this is our inside screw here. This is our outside screw. So you can click on any vertex on the outside screw, then L, grab it, move it on the Z axis, move it up just a little bit. Okay, so if you find that your ball was just flying off as it got faster, that's how to fix it. Now, we shouldn't, we didn't have this problem in the first place, but if you did have that problem, now you shouldn't have that problem as much. And you might need to tweak it, you might just need to keep raising it until the ball doesn't fly away. Right, good. Let's have a look at that in rendered mode. Boy, looking super, look at this, beautiful stuff. Good. Okay, now we need a camera. Okay, so the first thing then we want to do is rotate round to here, yeah? So to where the ends of our screw are, because we're going to have our first camera kind of going up here, kind of alongside it. So here's the end of one screw and here's the end of the bottom. So we want a Bezier curve going kind of up and down here. Okay, so add curve, Bezier curve. I'm going to grab it, move it along the x-axis. There it is, it's a tiny little thing. So let's make it bigger. I want it 10 meters bigger. And I want to rotate it on the y-axis. I need to grab it and move it up on the z-axis. Okay, there we go, something like that. Now, we need a camera. So we're going to add a camera. Don't touch anything. Option G, Option R. Then, come down here, Object Constraints, Add Constraint, Follow Path. Our camera is going to follow this new Bezier curve. And as soon as we do that, we see the camera at the top of this Bezier curve up here. Yeah? Now, we need to change the forward axis to -y. Camera disappears. We need to change the x-axis to y. Camera comes back. We want another constraint, track to. Our camera is going to track our sphere. And as soon as we do that, our camera points at our ball. Yeah? And now we press play and we see that our camera follows our ball. Good. Now, the camera is going to start up here and it's going to move down as the ball moves down. But we need to program that, okay? And we can program that with keyframes. So here, follow path, offset. This is where we want the camera to start. So at frame 1, let's have a keyframe there. Then let's move forward. So around here, around frame 350, I want the camera at the bottom. So I need to move the camera down to the bottom, all the way down, and I know that it's number -100. When it's there, I can add another keyframe. And now if we go back and we press play, we see the camera start to move down. Very good. We can look at it through our camera view, and it also looks quite good. What I find quite nice from our camera is to change the focal length to about 35. It gives us a bigger focal length. Yeah? Now, we're not just going to add one camera. We're actually going to add a second camera. Okay, and to do this, we need to add a different type of curve. Now, you won't have this in your Blender at the moment, so let's go ahead and add it. So we go Edit, Preferences, we go to Add-ons, and then we search for Curve, and it's called Add Curve Extra Objects. You just need to tick that, close it, and then you will have all of these extra curves here. You might need to restart your Blender. I'm not sure. I don't think you do, but you might need to. We are going to add an Archimedean curve. Now be very careful, because as soon as you've added it, you get this menu down here, and this is the only time you see this menu. If you click off it, there's no way to get that menu back. Yeah, we just have to delete the spiral and then create it again. So we're going to create an Archimedean curve. With this menu up, we need to change the settings. First of all, we're going to make it bigger. And then we're going to add some height to it. There we go, something like that. Yeah? Because we're going to have another camera, and the camera's going to do the same sort of thing. Yeah? The steps, we can increase this just to make it smoother. Yeah? We see if we just have 5 steps, it's a very jagged curve. It's not really like a curve, is it? Yeah? The more steps we have, the smoother it gets. I'm going to go with something like, whatever, something like 100, a nice smooth curve. Right, I can click off that, come back into object mode because it changes into edit mode. I'm going to grab it, I'm going to move it up on the z-axis, and I'm going to have another camera here. So I'm going to add a camera, don't touch anything, Option G, Option R to initialize it, and then this second camera, again, the same constraints. Follow path, this is going to follow my spiral, and then another track 2, and it's going to track to the same sphere. Yeah? Now, it started at the bottom, which I don't want, so I'm going to change this offset to the top, which is going to be -100. At frame 1, I want a keyframe, and then I'm going to come to frame 350, like I did last time, change the offset to 0, and have another keyframe. Now, we've got 2 cameras. Yeah, we've got camera 1 here and camera 2 here, and they look very similar. But there's one important difference, and the difference is this black thing here. When you click on it, you can see it more clearly. Yeah? We have this thing here, and this tells us that this camera is the active camera. We don't have it here. If we click on it, we don't have that. What we can do, we can click on the camera, right-click, Set Active Camera. And that camera then becomes the active camera. Yeah? And if we want to look through this camera, we can right-click, Set Active Camera. And now we're looking through the second camera. Yeah? Okay, good. Right, so we've got 2 cameras. Now we need to render. We're going to render twice. Yeah? So set your output, FFmpeg, QuickTime. You're going to go render and render, but you're going to need to be careful. These are old, I can delete those. When you've rendered it first, when you've rendered one of them, you need to rename it. Otherwise, when you render it again, it will just overwrite because it will have the same file name. Yeah? So I've rendered them. This is my render from the curve. Yeah, and this is my render from the side. And it will take a couple of minutes to render each of them, but when you've done that, you need to rename them, okay? And I've changed the focal length of my cameras to 35 millimeters. Yeah, I did that down here. 50 millimeters. Which camera am I on? Here. 35 millimeters looks better than 50 millimeters. That's a bit too close, so I rendered them at 35 millimeters. Okay, when you've done that, you'll have 2 files. And when you've done that, you can fire up iMovie. And you can create a new project. I've done it already. You can create a new project called Lesson 5. And when you've done that, let me start from scratch. You can take your 2 movies, drag them in to your new project. And now we're going to make a kind of collage of both of them. So we can start here. Okay, and then I'm going to split this clip. And now I'm going to have some video from the second camera. So this, okay, is about here. So I'm going to split that clip, and I'm going to put this video in here. So it starts with camera 1. Then we switch to camera 2. I'm going to split this again, put this out the way, and then this just takes a bit of practice. So I'm going from camera 1 to camera 2 to camera 1. And then here, where it falls off, I'm going to split that clip again. I'm going to throw that away. I don't need this, I'm going to throw that away. I don't need this, I'm going to throw that away. Split that. I don't need this, I'm going to throw that away. Okay, so a very quick trial, if you like, of working with 2 cameras. yeah? And then you take the output, you put it into iMovie, oppa, and there we go, yeah? So I've taken 2 different renders, I've taken them out of Blender, I've put them into iMovie, and then in iMovie I've cut them up to do stuff with them. And this transition, I'm going to have a transition in here, the same transition in each of these places. Okay, good. I'm happy with that, so now I can share this to a file, to any file. Lesson 5 complete. Wait, my spelling is not very good, but okay. And then when this has finished, this complete can then go into my portfolio. Yeah, it can then go to the end of my portfolio. Right, okay, well there's quite a lot going on there, and this is just lesson 5, okay? So things are getting difficult quite quickly. If you get stuck, of course, put your hand up, come and ask me, yeah? But hopefully you're having some fun with this because we've got a lot of interesting things ahead of us. All right, guys, have fun. I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye for now.